Hi, fourth graders. We are ready for today's math lesson in Module 6, Lesson 7, and we will be doing expanded form using place value charts. So when you get your table of contents, go ahead and flip to your note page for today. And you can see that our objective says, I can model mixed numbers in expanded decimal and fraction form on a place value chart. So when I think of expand, I think about something is getting stretched out. And that's exactly what we're going to do. And to do that, we're going to keep in mind our place value of each digit. So our first directions tell us to use both tenths and hundredths place value discs to represent each number. Write the equivalent number in unit form and in the place value chart. So we have three jobs. We're going to use discs, unit form, and place value chart. So the first number is 378 and 73 hundredths. So the first thing I'm going to do is look at each place value on its own. So first is that 3 hundredths. So I'm going to draw discs, and I'm going to draw 3 discs because I have 3, and they each represent 100. And there's my 300. Next, I have the 7, which is in the tens place. So I'm going to draw 7 circles for this next one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And each of those represent the tens place. So they will each have 10 inside. All right. My next place value is that ones place. And I know that there are 8 in the ones, and so I'm going to come down here so I don't run out of room and draw 8 discs next. And they each represent 1 because they are in the ones place. Remember, these are place value discs, so they represent the place value. So far I have shown 378, but I'm not finished yet because I still have my after the decimal. And in this first place value, I know that is the tenth, and there are 7 of them. So I'm going to draw 7 circles again. And they represent a tenth, which looks like this. And so in each circle, I will write 1/10. You want to make sure your decimal can be seen in your circle. Then I still have one more place value to look at, and it's that hundredth place where my 3 is. And so I have 3, and each one represents a hundredth, which is a decimal point, a 0, and 1. If you're feeling like you're getting stuck on what the next place value is, check out our place value chart right here. So what I'm going to do now is with this place value chart, I'm going to write in my number by stretching and expanding, just like we set up here in our objective. So in the hundreds, I have 378. Right? That's our whole number. In front of the decimal, we've been really good at that. Next comes the tenth, which is a 7 and a 3 in the hundredth. So I read it 378. And I'm going to write big and in my decimal place because that's how I read it. 73 hundredths. Now the last thing that we needed to do was write this in unit form. And remember, unit form gives me the number and the word. And so I'm going to say it out loud to help me. And it looks like this. 3 hundreds plus 7 tens plus 8 ones, we're adding them all together, plus 7 tenths, plus 3 hundredths. And I'm writing it all out. Your hand's going to be busy today, fourth graders. Okay, then this last part is we want to figure out the value of these digits. So the digit blank is in the hundreds place. So I'm going to look in the hundreds, and here it is. And the digit that is there is a 3. It has a value of, if I asked you, what is that 3 worth? It's not just a 3, it's worth 300 because of its place value. All right, so we got the hang of that. Let's try it again. This time we're going to do it with 920 and 37 hundredths. All right, so remember, I'm going to draw all those discs. So I need 9 discs that each represent 100. Here we go. I'm going to draw a little squiggly so I don't get... Okay, there's my 9, and they each have 100 inside. My circles were getting too small. Make sure you can see what's inside of each disc. There's my 900s. Next, I have 2, and that 2 is in the tens place. So I'm going to add 1, 2, and they each represent 10. Then you'll notice I have a 0 in the ones place. I won't have any discs with a 1 in it. So I'm going to hop over to my next place value, which is tenths, and there are 3 of those. So I'll go 1, 2, 3, and I remember this is the tenths, so it gets a decimal point and a 1. And then my very last place value is that hundredth, and I need 7. And they each represent 100th, so it's a decimal 0, 1. Fourth graders, you'd think I would figure out how to make my circles big enough. There we go. All right, so I've done my discs. Now we're going to put it in our place value chart. And so I'm going to stretch out, again, expand my number. So in the hundreds, I have 9. 2 is in my tens place. I don't have any in my ones. The tenths is a 3. Remember that decimal says and a 7 in the hundredths. So when I read this, it says 920 and 37 hundredths. We always say that last place value that's filled. Okay. Now, the other thing I need to do is come back and write it in that unit form. So we're writing the number and the word to stretch it out. All of this is getting us ready for expanded form. So I'm going to say 900 plus 2, I guess I need an S, tens, plus, I don't have any ones to add, so I'm going to leave that alone. Next, I have 3 tenths plus 7 hundredths. Okay, there's my unit form. So if I have the digit that's in the tenths, I'm going to underline that TH to remind me I'm checking out the decimal. Which digit is there is a 3. It has a value of, remember over here my 3 had a value of 300. This time my 3 is going to have a value of 3 tenths. All right, nice job. I know your hand's already tired. Give it a shake. We're going to look next at stretching it out even more at our expanded form. So we are going to use expanded form to represent each number in decimal and fraction form. So notice these 2 are decimals, so we'll write those as decimals. These 2 are fractions, we'll write those as fractions. I want us to remind ourselves quickly before we work on this expanded form of our place value. So when I think in front of a decimal, I'm going to write over here in this space, I'm going to use today 100, we're going to use 10, and we're going to use 1. And this will come in handy in just a moment. Behind a decimal, so on this side of a number, we're going to use either decimal form, 1/10 or 100th. Or if I wrote it as a fraction, it would be 1/10 or 100th. We're going to need those as we use our expanded form today. Okay, so let's take a peek at this number, 378 and 73 hundredths. I want to focus on each and every place value. So the first place value is that hundreds place, and there's a 3 in there. So this is when we make our groups. Okay, so we have lots of parentheses. I'm going to say 3 times, this is where this comes in handy, 100, because that's the place value I'm in. Close the parentheses, and now I'm ready to add the next place value. So I'm moving over and I'm about to use 10. The digit that's in the tens place is 7. So it'll be 7 times the place value of 10 and that group, plus, now I'm ready to look at ones. What's going to be multiplied by 1? It's that 8. 8 times 1 and that parenthesis. So I finished with in front of the decimal, but I'm still not done. I'm going to remind us over here. So next comes my 10th place. So I'm going to add and start a new group. The digit in my 10th place is that 7. So it'll be 7 times 1/10. End that parenthesis. Next is my 100th, so I have one more group to add, and in the 100th place I have a 3. 3 times 100th. End. And that is my expanded form. Every place value is multiplied by its value, 100 or 10 or 1 or 1/10 or 100th. So let's try it again this time over here. 340 and 83 hundredths. So again, we're going to look at breaking apart every single place value. So the first digit is 3. So we're going to say 3 times, the value of that place is 100. 3 times 100 plus. Next I have my tens. There's a 4 there, so it'll be 4 times 10. Next comes my 1, but I don't have anything there, so I can leave it alone. I'm going to skip over that 1 because there is 0 of them. Next I'm looking at my 10th place value, and there's an 8. And 8 times 1/10 plus my very last digit is a 3 times its place value is a 100th. And that's my expanded form for 340 and 83 hundredths. So let's try now. We're going to look at fraction form. So the only thing that's going to change for 4th graders is this part right here at the end. When I'm multiplying by tenths and hundredths, instead of writing it as decimal, now we're going to write it here as fractions. All right, so let's take a peek. I have 38 and 9 hundredths. All right, well, let me remind myself of my place value. Do I have anything in the hundredths? Nope. My first digit is a 3, and it's in the tens place, so I'll multiply it by 10. So that looks like 3 times 10 plus. Next place value is my ones, and in that digit I have 8. 8 times 1 plus. All right, I know my next place value that I wrote down is 1/10, but I don't have tenths, I have hundredths. So already I'm going to leave that alone and say I don't have any tenths. So I'm going to add 9 times 100th. And that's the end of that expanded form. All right. I'm going to make a little quick change. So on this very last one, I want you to change it. Instead of saying 808 100ths, that's kind of a tongue twister, I want you to say 882 100ths. Okay, we're going to work with that problem. All right, so let's get started. The first digit I see is an 8, and it is in the hundreds place. So I will say 8 times 100. Okay, I'm ready to add. I know after hundreds comes tens. I don't have any tens. After tens comes ones. I don't have any ones. So now I'm ready to look at, okay, I have 82 hundredths. Now in my mind, it's going to help me to remind myself, okay, 82 hundredths looks like this as a decimal. 82 hundredths. And remember, every digit has to have its own place. So really, when I see 82 hundredths, I know that this 8 is in the tenths. So I'm going to say 8 times 1/10 is next. And then I can add how many is in the hundredths, and it would be 2 times 100th. Because I know when I put all of these together as a number, I have 800, and there's an 8 in the tenths and a 2 in the hundredths, which equals 82 hundredths. You did an excellent job today, 4th graders. I know that was a lot of stretching, expanding, but you are able now to write mixed numbers in fraction and decimal form and expand them and stretch them out. So excellent job today.